Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is day 3 of the Anyone Can Paint Challenge, and we are very excited to welcome you back today for our third and final day. And I am here with my wonderful friend, Miss Diana Shine.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here today. Hi, Jen. Good morning. Great to see you.
So fun to be together. So fun to be together. And we are here also with Peter, but here's the deal, guys. Peter has a bit of a cold and he's not feeling so great. So he decided, rather than be sniffly and stuff like that on camera, he'll just be working things from back behind the scenes. So anyways, thank you, Peter, for being here. And Diana, wonderful to be together.
It sure is.
I don't know, Diana, but what would you say to the artist that is starting out and just trying to figure out how to move forward? Like, how important are the building blocks of what you can learn in the beginning stages?
These things are like vital for everything you do, no matter what kind of artist you land on being in the end. Knowing these essential mixing tools, value tools, what paintbrushes to use, what kind of paints to buy. These are so important for everybody. And, I think that having, no matter what job you're doing, having the right tools in your toolbox for the job you're about to do is so important, even if you only use a few of them for each job. It's so important to have the whole kit right there, right in front of you.
Yeah. And that was a surprise question, you guys. I didn't tell Diana I was going to ask her that, but it was just making me think back on when I first started painting in acrylics. Now, I'd grown up and I kind of painted in watercolor, but I'd never used acrylics. And I got some and it was really fun. I was having a lot of fun, but I had no clue what I was doing until I actually went to a workshop and I saw somebody use them who knew what they were doing. And it was so helpful. So that was kind of our desire with something like this, was to give you some building blocks, some tools that you can put in the tool belt and use, because honestly, they're good for forever. Like Diana and I were talking about it this just yesterday, because she just taught a workshop and a lot of the same things come up over and over again, in that it doesn't really matter how long you've been painting. You almost always are coming back to these really fundamental things that are going to make your paintings work. So, we're glad to be able to share that information here. So just know that the stuff that you're learning, getting out of this, is going to be helpful for you long term, however far down that road you go.
That's right. What we learned yesterday about values. I work with extremely advanced students, and they still struggle with values. I mean, that is like the essential tool that every artist, no matter what they decide doing in the end, that learning those values and how to see them in color, how to translate color to values, that's like the most essential tool you'll ever have. And it's just amazing to see everybody working so hard at it too. I love that.
Yeah. You guys are doing awesome. So Diana's going to be here again at the end of the session. We're going to have our Q&A again. Diana, thank you for being here. And I'm excited for that. We're going to move into our normal presentation now, and I will go like this. So guys, I guess I'm on the wrong thing, but that was yesterday's painting. That was kind of cool. And but here we are, session 3. So we're on the second painting. We're going to be talking about, basically, we're going to be talking about color. Yesterday we put some color on, but we didn't really talk much about it. If you need any resources, go to acrylicuniversity.com/begin. That is the place to find everything that you need. Again, today what we're going to do is this intro. We're going to do a color mixing exercise. Hopefully that will be very helpful and kind of informative as you see colors come together. Then we're going to do this second painting in color we'll do our prize and Q&A at the end. And again, you're going to just need pen and paper and some paint supplies. I always think it's good to be able to take notes when you're learning something. And no matter who you are welcome here. This class is designed for newcomers, newbies, and novices. This is a straightforward, simple class. We want you to feel comfortable, be able to ask questions, and have fun learning to paint. I'm really excited because we're going to take a quick look at day number 2's homework, where we looked at value gradations and grayscale to color painting. So here's some what I saw in the Facebook group. It was super fun just to see what everybody had done. I know some people were taking it from grayscale to color. Some people didn't take a picture of their grayscale painting. They only had the color image. Some people didn't get to the color portion of it yet, but super fun. Sarah says, I'm having fun with this. I struggled a lot with value in the beginning and I've seen improvement, which is super cool. Really, really fun. I love everybody's work. So much fun. Les says, I've never painted along. Acrylic painting under time pressure. Yes, kind of fun, adds a little extra to it. And Carrie says, well, I was so ambitious and excited. I did 2, sun and moon. Learning so much from the class. Thank you so much. And so that was kind of the goal from yesterday, really was to see that you can change that scene completely and leave the values the same, and you get 2 separate kind of like in her case, like it's daytime, nighttime, and understanding that the values, if they work in a grayscale pattern, that's going to work in a colorful pattern. That's going to be a very helpful thing for you. So my question for you guys is, what is one thing you learned from day 2? Did you discover anything? Did you learn anything? I'd love to see some answers come in to see if there's anything that you kind of figured out or learned or saw. Okay, let's see what we can find here. I'm looking, I'm waiting. There's a little bit of a delay with our, okay, let's see here. Okay, values are hard to get right. That's true. It takes a lot of, to me, it takes a lot of intentional, like really looking. Using my phone to check my grays. I love that. Yeah, that's a great tool. Always be patient. It's all about value. Color gets the credit. Yep, that's for sure. It takes a lot of paint. I need more. That's a really interesting one because that's something that a lot of people, I find a lot of people wrestle with that, like just for whatever reason, not using enough paint. Value studies were helpful. That's cool. But I still need so much work on values. That grayscale values can be translated to color. I really love black and white painting. Yeah, that's actually really cool. I think that sometimes it's just fun to do something different, right? Keep your brain open. Yes, squinting for my eyes for values. Remember to use them when I'm painting. Perfect, you guys. I learned the color scale, set up my palette like you. Oh, okay, yeah. Learning how to do fog and mist. Super fun. Grayscale was super helpful. I enjoyed putting my inspiration photo in black and white. And so, guys, thank you so much. Man, you guys are really flying in with the comments now. It was a little slow at the beginning, but now I just can't keep up with them. So anyways, that was, I'm glad you learned stuff, because the goal of this is really, like Diana said, is to give you some tools. And I think it's important to know that when you're learning, it's hard sometimes to see your own growth. But if you just keep taking steps forward, you are growing. There's a quote that I really love where he says, for each day you put in, you're growing, even if by only 1 grain of sand at a time. And that growth keeps you young. That growth keeps you vital. It's so fun because you're a perennial student. You're just always learning, and that becomes a source of wonder. So today, like I said, I want you to pull out your pen and paper. We're going to quickly do this reminder exercise that we kind of did the first day. We redid it yesterday, and it's not going to take long, but I want you to write this out again with your non-dominant hand. I want you to write, I am and always will be a creative dreamer. We're trying to get in the habit of making space for the creative dreamer inside of us to be able to play, experiment, and have fun without criticism. So write that with your non-dominant hand. I am and always will be a creative dreamer. And then respond with your dominant hand and say, and I commit to always guard that sacred part of me. I commit to always guard that sacred part of me. We are here. I'm moving on because you guys have seen this a couple days, but we're here to encourage each other, learn from each other, grow, and have fun. Today is about unlocking color. I know people come in late. That's why sometimes I put slides in here 2 times, because sometimes somebody jumps in halfway through. So we're going to do a color mixing exercise, then a color painting, and then we're going to do our 2 prizes and Q&A. So are you guys ready for this? Ready to jump in? I'm going to wait for it. I want to see this. You guys know, yes, I'm ready. Born ready. There it is right there. Okay, you guys, let's do it. I love it. Perfect. Peter, let's roll this. Okay, so here's my palette. I've got yellow, red, and blue, my 3 primary colors. And in between my yellow and my red, I can mix my orange. In between my red and my blue, I can mix my violet or purple. And in between my blue and my yellow, I can mix my green. And there will be variations, as you know, one might be more towards blue-green, one might be more towards yellow, and it would be a yellow-green. I can add in white, and I have a lot of variety in here. But it's very nice to know that if you just are mixing between these colors, you can kind of keep track of where those mixes came from. I have black, I have titanium white, and this black could be substituted. Sometimes I might not have black. I might use a different color, and I could create my own blacks. But for simplicity's sake, we're just going to keep the black on there, and that is going to be our darkest value straight out of the tube. Of course, white is our lightest value straight out of the tube. And these colors all fall somewhere in between. And as we do mixes, we'll see if we turned the image to black and white, that you would see the way that it actually can relate to the grayscale values. Okay, so if we're trying to create a color in between, of course, very simply, we can just grab an equal amount or something that's close to an equal amount of the 2 colors, and we can go in between. But what you'll find is that oftentimes one of the colors is stronger than the other color. In this case, the red has it's a stronger tinting color than the yellow. So what you find is that you actually need more yellow than you have red to create an orange that's in between. If you just take an equal amount of red and yellow, it creates something that's more like a red orange. So you can use your brush, or you can use a palette knife to do this, because I don't know if everybody has a palette knife. I'm just using my brush right now, but you can see that this mix now is actually pretty close to somewhere right in the middle. Like, that's a pretty good orange. It might have veered a tiny bit towards the yellow now, but it's pretty close to being in the middle. But we put in probably twice as much yellow as we did red. So that's just something to be aware of as you are mixing colors, that each color has a different mixing strength. And so you may need to add more of one color to make up for a weak mixing strength. But that doesn't mean that you can't make the color that you want. It just means you need to be aware and keep paying attention, and don't just fall into some formula like half and half will always work. It's just not always going to work like that. But you can continue to make these mixes. Grab some blue, grab some red, and we'll create a violet here. Now, sometimes, depending on the red that you have, depending on the blue that you have, the colors will be more, they'll be more vibrant, I guess you could say. And sometimes they'll be less vibrant. Like this right here, this mix, because of this red leans a little bit more towards orange. So you can see it mixed a pretty nice, vibrant orange, but it's going to mix a slightly dirtier purple. But that's okay. We're working within a limited palette, meaning we're only using a handful of colors right here. We've got our primary red, yellow, and blue, and we're mixing all the secondary colors out of those. So this is how you can set up, and you can see I grabbed a little bit more of the yellow again. There's more yellow than blue in this mix, because I'm assuming that it's going to take a little bit more yellow to mix up this green. And that's something pretty close. Again, these can be adjusted more if you want, and sometimes it's more obvious that they need it. But for me, I'm okay with it being somewhere in the middle like that. And that's essentially all you need. You actually don't even need to mix them all right off the bat, but sometimes it can be nice, it can be helpful to get those mixes happening so that you're one step closer to grabbing the color that you want as you do your painting. That's what we have in our palette. And if we want to create a gradation, so let's do the same type of idea that we did with the grays and the blacks and the whites, and we did this. So we know if we want to do the same type of idea, we can just work our way from one color to the other, right? So I could grab this yellow and I could start on this side, and I could begin to mix in more red, but essentially it's going to be more of this orange for a little while until I get to something that is directly in the middle, and it's just going to be the orange color here. So I'm getting pretty close to that, kind of like halfway in the middle. You can see now I'm going to start mixing in a little bit more red, and this mix will come further down toward the red. You can see just getting more and more pure as it gets over here, and then finally it'll be just straight red. So you can see how quickly it kind of did change from yellow, which again, probably if I wanted to redo that, I could probably come back and mix a little bit more yellow in to make the gradation a little slower. But that's what happens when we're doing a gradation in color. Could we do that with our blue and our yellow and have the gradation between those, yes, we can, totally can, just like this. Now, what I was going to show you also is that this value, like where does this value fall? It's probably somewhere in here, right? It's like this, even this yellow, it's not totally white, right? It's gonna be somewhere in this range. And we can see this better, you know, if we took a screenshot and we took and changed this color to a black and white, we would see it a lot easier. We'd see, oh yeah, this lines up right there. So this is probably closer to midtone. Now I'm telling you this because sometimes when you start mixing color, color can fool you. Color can make you think something is brighter or lighter in value or darker in value than it really is, just because the color itself is vibrant. So this color is vibrant, but it's still fairly dark. It's not way up here. It's somewhere in this range, right, where it's actually kind of dark, and that matters as you get painting, because the way that your design works is largely due to the values and the way that the values of the painting work together. So if we start mixing in between the yellow and the blue, we're going to start adding in more blue, basically through this green that is here. So we get to the middle, where the green is, and then we'll start adding more blue, make it a blue-green. Oops, I picked up a little bit of the violet there. I was not really intending to do. And I'm not cleaning my brush right now. If I needed to get a totally pure color here, I will, you know, so like at the end, I'll probably take this, wipe this off, and then come back with one last brush stroke of the pure blue. And that is, that's the transition, right, between blue and yellow. So you can see it's not, I keep going over that for some reason. you can I just want to get a nice clean blue on there again, because I think I went over it too much, and my brush had a little bit too much of the green on it, and it kind of contaminated it. So, but anyways, you can see how these values, as it's going over some of this, it's actually doubling up, and you can see it was getting darker and darker in there, where this is like showing through some of the white, and you can see the blue easier right there. So what you're painting over also influences the way that the colors work. Now, shall we do this final? Yeah, why not? Let's just do it. We'll go from red on this side, and we'll start mixing in a little bit of the blue by way of the violet that we have in the middle. And you can see that as this violet gets put on there, that's a pretty dark color, right? Like that's got some depth to it. And there you go. Bright and lots of saturation of the color. This is pretty saturated too, but this violet in the middle looks mostly just dark. And it's actually, if you could see what I'm looking at, you might notice that it has a brown tone also to it. It's not like a very vibrant purple. And that's just because this red, like I said earlier, it leans a little bit more towards orange. It kind of leans this way, and therefore when it mixes with this blue, it's going to make a more muted violet. But what's really great about that is that if I was to add some white to this color here, this is basically the in-between color. It's still going to look violet, but it's going to be just a softer kind of violet. And if I did the same thing and I just kind of worked my way toward these other colors, keeping it a little bit lighter, I'm gonna get an in-between color here. I made it a little bit too red. Okay. So keeping the value consistent here is the trick, because the white needs to be mixed in to keep it on the lighter side, more of a mid-tone. But you can see how pretty that is. Like, you add, this is straight up, I just mixed white with that, and that does not look colorful at all. But you see it down here and you actually realize, oh, it's not just black or, you know, just a dark. When you mix in that white, you can see the color easier. And that's where you get a lot of the beautiful, to me, some of the more beautiful colors is when you start mixing a little bit of white in and you start seeing that, oh, okay, as this, I couldn't see all the nuances of that before, but the white can show these beautiful, beautiful grays that we didn't notice before. So I'm going to try to go the other direction here. Trying to get that color the way place that it's supposed to be here. And I'll keep adding a little bit more blue in. Until we're pretty much just white and blue. But you can see, again, to me, these colors become so beautiful. And there's so many variations in here. And this is just a great exercise if you want to learn a little bit about color. You don't have to try with any more colors than your 3 primaries. If you mix a little bit of white in there, you'll get it to be like that. If you mix a little bit of black in there, it also will affect it. It's harder to see, but you can create these beautiful dark colors by mixing in a little bit of black. And what also I love to do is mix in a little bit of white and black, and you'll make this slightly more of a gray, but it's just going to be a beautiful neutral. And it's just fascinating to me. Color is always fascinating. I never get bored of it. It's like you could play with color for the rest of your life. And I feel like you would never run out of something interesting to discover, because it's just so many pieces to it, so many parts to it, and it's just absolutely fascinating. But you can see these are way more gray, but they're still colorful and like just absolutely beautiful. So this is kind of the magic of learning the simplified limited palette, is that you can create all these colors, and what is so great about it is that they will work together because they're born out of the same family. They're born out of the same red, yellow, and blue, and therefore they are related. And in your painting, you will realize that they're related, and you'll realize that they all work together. And that's the secret of so many artists, is that why do their paintings work together when other artists, like you look at it and you're like, yeah, it's colorful, there's lots of color, but there's something that doesn't really work in the painting. Well, part of it could be that they're using lots and lots of individual colors from tubes, and that can make a very colorful painting, but it won't make a painting that ties in together. And these colors, as different as they all are made out of the same primaries, and they all work together because of that. And that's a really wonderful lesson to store away in the back of your mind and get yourself acquainted with your limited palette. And you can switch out some of these blue, you can have a different blue and try that out and see what happens. But understanding that you have the ability to create colors that are quite diverse, but they will still be tied together. That's one of the great joys of the limited palette, and I'm happy to be able to share it with you. All right, well, I wanted to take a minute here now to answer any questions you have related to that color mixing exercise. Pretty simple exercise, right, Diane? And not a lot of, It's pretty straightforward. But are you like me? Because when I did that, I just find that as I start doing those mixes, there's something inside me that gets really happy seeing the colors come to life. And I don't know if you're like that. Does that still kind of like make you happy?
Yes, absolutely. I am always delighted when I see the colors starting to unfold on my palette, and when I see them starting to vibrate against each other on the painting, because certain color combinations create these wonderful reactions in your eye and in your even like you can almost feel them viscerally. And so as you create a harmonious colors like you were just doing, all of those colors on your palette just now could go onto a single painting, and it could be a really beautiful harmonious painting depending on how you pulled it off. But I love that so much. Just love
I think it's super fun. Ruth says endless possibilities, so fun. Denise says, after combining the colors, do you then determine the value created from all those variations? I think that that's a really good exercise, would be to do do those mixes, take a picture of it, put it on your phone or something, turn it to black and white, compare it to your value chart and see what they look, where are they? It will at least give you a reference point in your mind, right? And you could maybe even keep a color chart like that and write, this is about a value 4, this mix right here, and just kind of like have it in your mind so that you could refer back to it. You could, pull that out if you were ever working on a design and you knew like the value structure that you're going for. That'd be helpful.
When I started out, Jed, I started by doing that, just putting together color mixtures, like seeing everything I could make from, 2 or 3 colors. And I had them in a notebook that I could go back and refer to. And I took notes on it so that it would just be embedded in my mind, that I could just memorize just exactly where on the value scale things were, exactly how hot it appeared to look, and all of those things. Just in the beginning of my journey, I had a lot of color swatch notebooks. Lot.
Yeah, that's why I think you know so much about it, because you've done a good job of taking notes and keeping track of that, which is wonderful. How would you answer this question from Natalie? What color of yellow, blue, and red would you suggest to start with?
Well, I like the ones you had on your palette today, but I'd probably start with primary magenta, which is a PV19. That's the pigment number. Either I kind of like Hansa yellow opaque. It's sort of like cadmium yellow light, or cad yellow light, either one of those, and ultramarine blue. Those would be a great starting point. You've got to have white in there because they don't lighten themselves.
Yeah.
But that would be a great starting point. I usually have ultramarine blue and phthalo blue green shade because you can mix them to get a true, like, clear blue. But those 3 colors, ultramarine, cad yellow light, primary magenta, can get you most of the way there. Yeah.
And I think that the ones that I have in here, Natalie, are ultramarine blue, cadmium yellow light, and I have, it's naphthol red, but it's really close to cadmium red. And like Diana said, if I'm really sitting and I'm thinking, okay, if I was choosing a red, I probably would go with quinacridone. It has different names. That's the thing. Quinacridone magenta, sometimes some brands call it that. The main thing is look at the pigment number on the back. It's PV19. I do think it's a little bit, it create violets easier, but if you get the right kind, it can also still create oranges fairly well.
Yeah.
But a little bit of that is personal, and it's also where you live and what you would be wanting to paint more, and maybe what mix of what red will work better. So the red that I have in my palette today with cadmium, it mixes orange as well, but it's not going to mix a vibrant violet as much. So, but great question.
It is.
Tammy says, truly learning from this lesson. Mine just doesn't look as different, yet the same as I see in yours. Does this value lesson need practice as well? It does. Like, I think I'm doing it, and you could see how I was reaching back in for the white. I would go grab a little bit of this color, a little bit of that, to adjust that, because yes, it all takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of time to figure out, even now I don't do it perfectly. Sometimes I'm trying to mix a color and I'm pretty close, and I accidentally grab too much of a color, a different color. And then it shifts it way far that direction. And then I'm like, okay, I have to go back. I have to bring it back closer. So it's all nuanced. Danny, you talk about a whisker, just grabbing a whisker or something, don't you?
That's right. Yeah. When I started learning, my teacher would take like one hair of his paintbrush and dip it in like the opposite color in the color wheel. If he had a red that was too vibrant, he'd dip it in his green and then put that in, and it would change the whole complexity of the color. And these things are learned I watched him and then I practiced it, and it didn't come out the same. And I was like, why doesn't mine come out the same as his? Well, he did it a lot. After I'd done it a lot, mine started to have more of that, that delicacy. And so it really is a matter of just getting in there, having fun with your paints, trying it. And if you fail, you're not a failure. It's like you have to fail in order to get it right. You have to do it wrong. I mean, that's the only way to do it. The only way to get the feel in your hands.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I see a couple other questions here I'm going to answer real quick. Karen says, my ultramarine blue says it is a green shade. Is this the ultramarine that you use? No, I use one that leans toward red a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
This says, do they sell paints in a value mix similar to what you've just done, as in maybe a set? Yeah, you can get, actually, sometimes, I'm thinking if I have one, what it's called. I have a mix. Oh, okay, yeah, this is not it, but I have seen paints that actually say something like mixing set or primary or something like that, where you're going to get a red, a yellow, and a blue. Sometimes they'll throw in a green, but I would probably, for the sake of this, I'd probably just set the green aside, and you'll probably get a white and a black in there too. But sometimes I've seen it called, I'm pretty sure, a mixing set or something like that, where it's just those very core primary colors, and you can just sit around and learn how to use them. I would recommend getting it, trying it out. Where you will maybe have a little bit of learning and stuff is testing the yellow, and maybe trying to get a different yellow and putting it next to it and seeing how do these mix differently, right? And then you just, if you do something like Dana was talking about, where you keep track in a chart of this is cadmium yellow light, this is Hansa yellow, this is like cadmium deep, this is whatever, and you see how they mix differently, you just can look and refer back to them. Then you have this knowledge and a reference point to know what colors work best for you in different situations.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, we kind of need to move on. I'm going to just read this. Painting using only primary colors is so much easier and less confusing.
Yep.
As you mix your colors to get a different color, you gradually get the color you were looking for. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Mary. That's why we recommend using just a limited palette, because over time, as you understand how those colors work and how they mix, it actually makes your life easier. It might feel hard at first, but it actually is easier long term.
Easier, and your paintings are better. Yeah, your paintings are more cohesive. Yeah.
I can honestly say that, guys. There was a jump forward for me when I started using limited palette. Mostly it was a jump forward in I was more efficient. I used to have to correct paintings a ton, and there were a few paintings that I don't think I ever actually got to be very good, because they had these colors that were just too crazy together. And using a limited palette, it just gave me so much freedom to realize I can do anything with this and it's going to work. I'm not worried about color harmony at all anymore because of that.
Yeah.
So, okay. I wanted to let you guys know, in this next painting, I'm going to start it kind of like we started the painting yesterday. It's actually going to go from grayscale, and then I'm going to show you how to glaze, do a lighter wash over the top, where we're going to get a lot of our color from that. And so the palette that you saw me just working with is not the palette that I'm going to start with, because I'm going to do the first part with the black and the gray and the white, and then we'll jump back into that palette that had the colors. So just want to let you guys know that as we're jumping into this next part of the demo. So you guys ready for this?
Yeah,
let's
I
do
am.
it. Okay, so we're going to do this first section just with black and white and our gray mix that we had before. Now, if you don't have that set up, that's okay. You can take a little time or just mix it as you go with your black and your white. But what we're going to do is draw out a simple design. And what I have in mind is to have a small river kind of coming back toward us. And we're going to start with black and white, and we're going to fill it in later with some color. So what I want to do is kind of create a bit of a line going across, and I'm not doing a very good job of making that be straight and level, but my goal is that it will be straight and level eventually. And that's just some land in the distance, and there's going to be a little bit of water right there coming in between, and then I'm imagining this river that's kind of going to come toward us a little bit, and I'm going to try to use this mark right here. There's a little mark on my page that trying to incorporate into the scene. Now, the reason I'm doing this scene is we're gonna work on some color mixing and stuff in this water and up in the sky, and the land is gonna be fairly dark and not that colorful compared, but I think that the sky and the water as it reflects the sky can be kind of actually quite beautiful and colorful. So if you have something like this drawn in, it doesn't have to be, you know, super detailed, because what we're really going for here is just how does value, the lightness and darkness, work? How does the color correlate to the values that we're putting on? And, you know, just kind of seeing what we can figure out that way. So I'm gonna to make things maybe a little bit more nuanced. I might mix up a slightly different color in here, but I'm pretty much going to use this. This is my gray, my mid neutral gray, and I'm going to put this where the land is, back here. I'm just going to try to fill this in, make it all the neutral gray right in the middle of our values. So it's going to go all the way across. And if you want to use a ruler or something to help you make a straight line, you are most welcome to do that. It might help. I'm not doing it, but that doesn't mean you can't. So that's going to be that land. And then as it comes forward, I'm actually thinking that I might just use the same. Okay, so we'll just continue with that same gray, but I might just make some variations in it especially as it gets closer to us. But we're just trying to establish this pattern and this design. We're kind of looking from above. We're up a little bit looking at this made up kind of scene, this made up kind of river. Oops. Put on a little bit too much there. So I'm going to see if this works. If it doesn't, it's okay, but I'm going to just, oh, nope, didn't really work. Just trying to scratch out a little bit. That's okay. Sometimes on a different board, it would scratch away the paint a little bit easier. this canvas paper absorbs the paint more. So we're coming down, and hopefully this design will be somewhat interesting. It's not the most amazing design in the world, but hopefully the simplicity is okay to convey this important kind of idea that we're going to think about in this. So, it's all kind of gray. Now I'm going to mix up a slightly darker version of this. It's going to actually be quite a bit darker, but it's not going to be completely black. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in on some of these areas where I think there might be a little bit of a shadow. We're seeing the edge of this where it meets the water. It's kind of facing away from the light, and so it makes sense to have a little bit of an edge, a little bit more shadow area there. You can be kind of nuanced with this. I'm adding a little bit more. If you see, an idea that you want to pursue, but I'm just kind of adding a little bit of shadow in here. And one of the things, the light is actually going to be coming from back here. And if that's the case, the closer towards the light up here, the more it's going to reflect off this flat ground. And the farther away from it down towards the bottom of the painting, it's actually going to reflect less. So this is just another way to convey where the light's going to be coming from. But I'm going to create just another slightly different mixture, and this doesn't have to be perfect. I can't even see, there's a bit of a glare on this paper, so I can't see everything perfectly. But I know that the idea that I'm going for is that down here it's a little bit darker, and as it goes up it gets just a little bit lighter. That's hopefully what's happening. Okay, so with general idea like that, we're gonna let this dry. So if you need to get out a hair dryer, you can. If you want to just wait a few minutes, you can do that. I am going to get my hair dryer. Okay, so we have a basis for a painting. This is a design, and hopefully it's somewhat interesting. There's some more nuances that we could put in if we wanted to, and it will happen as we put in color. If you really wanted to, you could do it in black and white also. One of those would be that this water is not all going to be this same light value. As it comes down here, it's going to get a little bit darker because the sun and the light is going to be coming from somewhere close to the horizon. So the farther away from this horizon that we get from the source of light, like this is just going to reflect a little bit deeper sky, so it's going to be a little bit darker, and that will help keep our eye kind of up here at the focal area of the painting. And that's going to happen when we put on color. But like I said, if you wanted to do it at the black and white stage, you could mix up a light gray, something that would be slightly darker, of course, than white, but not down here. And you could just kind of do a gradation up here. I'm going to just skip that because I don't think you have to do it. And I'm going to change over this palette to a color palette. Okay, so on the palette I have white and black, and I have cadmium yellow. This is a naphthol red, and this is ultramarine blue, which I need to get a little bit more of. Those are my 3 pigments that came out of a paint tube. These are secondary colors, and I mix them. The green, the orange, and the violet are all mixtures between the primary colors. The primary colors are in the corners, and the secondary colors are mixed in between. Now, as I get a little bit more blue, we're gonna think about what colors do we want to use in this painting. And in my head, I've been imagining this as more like a sunset or sunrise. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow and a little bit of the orange mix, and I'm going to thin it down just a little bit. So I'm dipping my brush in a little bit of water, and I'm grabbing some of this yellow. So I don't have very much, it's not that much water on my brush, but a little bit. And we're gonna put this down, and I'm just gonna start putting it right over the top of the gray. And you can see that as it goes over the gray, it's adjusting and changing the value a little bit. And part of the reason for that is because this is a opaque color. It's not a transparent color. It's not totally like allowing the colors underneath it to really come through. It's actually covering it a little bit. A transparent color will allow the value of the color underneath to stay exactly the same pretty much, but an opaque color will actually usually lighten that color. Now what I'm doing is I'm mixing in more orange into my yellow as we go down, and it's creating a gradation. This color is changing, right? It's getting to be a little bit more vividly orange and moving away from the yellow, the bright yellow. Now, in reality, I know that one of the things that's going to happen in a scene like this is it's not necessarily going to move to orange and to red and then to violet, right? It's not a rainbow that's going to happen in this. It's actually going to go from a yellow and a bright orange, and it's going to move away, and it's going to actually turn a little bit more blue as you start looking up into the deep sky that's up above, or even in this reflection. So one thing that I could do to kind of show a little bit of that is I'm going to grab a little bit of blue. I'm going to grab some white. Now this I have to do with a little bit of white, or it's not going to work, because the blue is too it's just too dark, and it wouldn't be in the same value range or even anything close. So you can see what I put down is actually still a little bit too dark. So I'm just grabbing, you can see now I'm being a little bit more careful. I'm not covering up the edges, but I'm going to add more white and a little bit more orange. and even maybe a little bit more yellow. So I'm really just thinking about this being the right value, the right lightness and darkness, right? This is, I agree and admit, this is a little bit tricky because it's not just mixing the colors that are straight up yellow and orange, and we're adding in a little bit more nuance into this by adding in a little bit of that blue. So the blue needed to have a little bit of white in it, but you can kind of see how that changes it. It's now, like, you can see a lot of that yellow coming through and the orange coming through, but this now has a little bit more of a violet bluish tone to it, and it's moving up, and it's a little bit more sophisticated because it's combining the transparent aspect with a little bit less transparent. And so I like that kind of thing. Now everything is looking really yellow right now, and that's because of the fact that we put yellow over everything. So if I'm painting this, I don't mind the yellow kind of coming through and the orange coming through, but I want to be, I kind of want to be in control of it. I want to be thoughtful about it. So I'm going to grab some black, and I'm going to mix up a little bit more of a gray that probably should do it up here, but I'm going to mix a little bit of a gray, and you can see I still have some of that orange color that's coming off of my brush. So you can use your judgment. If you want to wash your brush out to get it cleaner, you can do that. I don't mind some of it coming through because this color, it does kind of tie the painting together. The yellow and the orange that are on top of the gray. But I kind of am interested in being able to determine where some of that shows and where some of it doesn't show. And I'm kind of leaning towards putting more just gray and the darker gray back into this. Make it appear a little bit less yellow. Now I'm grabbing a little bit of orange as it goes up here. Oops, too light. Thinking about this shape, I guess I don't love that shape too much in here. Maybe I want to hide some of that. So don't mean to throw you off at all, but you're in charge of your own painting, and if there's something in your painting that you don't love, you always have the right to make an adjustment. Now I'm thinking that where would a good place for the sun to be? Maybe over here will be some lighter areas. So I'm grabbing some white, and just there's a tiny bit of yellow mixed into it. But really what I'm doing is I'm just gonna create an area where the sun can be, and I'm gonna mix a little bit more yellow into that so we can have a slight gradation and some changes as it moves away from there. So more yellow. And you can see how as I mix the white into the yellow, even when I mix more yellow in, it's still more of an opaque color. It can cover, because of the white, it's going to have more of an opaque quality to it. See if I can adjust this camera slightly. I think that's a little easier to see. Okay, so sky with a sun, we've got a little bit of a gradation around it. And the last thing that I think would be kind of fun to do is, okay, what if we took, well, two things. I guess one would be, what if we took some of that lighter color, the sun, where it's almost white, but it's white and yellow mixed. We put a little bit of that in here where this bit of water is. Kind of came across, and maybe a little bit of it down here where it's reflecting just a bit more, like more directly underneath the sun. And the other thing that I think could be good would be, let's touch that background a little bit. We'll use some of the gray that we had. But this time, let's add in a little bit of blue and maybe even just a touch of the red. So I want to make sure I get this value good, and I need to lighten it some more. And I'm just going to grab a touch of the red to create a color that is more like a violet. That's my goal. Take that all the way across. That whole piece of land is going to be that color. But if you want to go one step further into something that would be slightly more nuanced, you'll grab just a little bit of white to lighten this slightly, and just a little bit of orange. And you're going to come in right here where it is closest to the sun. We're going to make this to show that the sun is close and it's affecting the color of this hill. And I'm going to do that one more time. This time even more yellow, or the orange, and just a little bit of white. And this is just going to come up to the very top of that hill. Not going to come down very far. Okay, so there you have it, a nuanced little painting. We're using the values that we established at the beginning with our grays, and we covered the whole thing with some color, the orange and the yellow, and then we came back over and we tried to reestablish the values with another mix of gray and another grayish violet. And this is, one method of painting. It's to work from your black and white version and then add color on top of it so that you can see the values and the design from the very beginning and add colors that correlate to that value structure and that design. Now, if you want to change any of the colors, you can change it. If you don't want to, do the blue or anything like that, you always have flexibility in paint. In fact, you can come back into something like this and you could, paint directly over any of these colors or any of these things and do a nice, easy change. But I think that this simple structure can show us a very nice value pattern and a nice design. And the last thing I want to say is, if you were to look at this in grayscale, what you would see is that we did work some more values into it than we had originally put on with the gray and the white. Essentially, it was just gray with a little bit of dark gray, almost black, with just a little bit of the white. The white was the whole sky and all the river. And now this is not white. This value has gotten deeper and darker. So we are, looking at something that's more in this range for this value down here. And that is helpful because the only really, really bright area is here and in this top part of the reflection and this water. And that helps our eye get more directed toward the light. And anyways, hope that was helpful, and we'll see you next time. All right, so that was fun, and I do hope that you go to acrylicuniversity.com/begin to get any of the information that you need, or if you want to catch the replay, you can go there and actually find the link. And we're going to do our giveaway. We've got 2 more $50 gift cards for art supplies that we'd love to give away. But right before we do, I wanted to ask you a few questions. First, did you have fun during this workshop? This is the Anyone Can Paint workshop, and I just want to know if you had fun. I think my goal with instruction and everything is not just that you learn stuff, but also that you have fun. I see it. Yes, fun. Yes. I love this. Carolyn says, I want to win. You know what's coming. Thank you. I have a better understanding of value and I had fun. Absolutely. Yes. So that's awesome. My next question is, did you discover something about yourself or your art? What would you say about that? Did you discover something about yourself or your art? I still see, let's see, this is the first time I learned about values. That's cool. Oops, this first, let's see. I love the darker colors. Let me see. It's hard for me sometimes to click on these. Total fun with the value and child play. Awesome. I discovered I need more practice. I mean, that's me too, that I have to loosen up. That's a good one. Yes, I'm too hard on myself. I need to have fun doing art. That's, Christy, exactly why I always hope that what we do is fun, because I think to myself, art is challenging. And if we're too hard on ourselves, why would we ever even want to do it? If we're not going to have a good time when we're doing it. So I discovered I need to let go of something. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last part. Yes, I only need 5 colors to mix. Lots, but I also made friends. That's awesome. Now I need to go outside and really take a look at the colors at sunrise and sunset. That's so good. Yeah. I need more paint time. And you've got more paint time, right? I mean, maybe you mean you need to create more paint time in your life, in your world. Yeah. Yes, I discovered I really do enjoy it instead of dreading failure. That's so good. I don't take enough chances. Yeah, this is so good. Great intro to color mixing. It helped a lot. Yes, I had a blast and learned a lot. I tend to work too slow. Interesting. To cultivate the dreamer, Margie says. That's so great. That's so great. Here's my next question, okay? I'll keep reading some of these, but my next question is, was it helpful to be part of a community? Was it helpful to do this together, right? That's my question. I'm going to keep reading a couple of these. Yes, it gave me confidence. You made valuables more understandable. I've moved from dreading the effort to really relaxing and enjoying it. I like the painting starting with grays and white. I think that's cool because it's kind of helpful sometimes to learn a new method. And was it helpful to be part of a community? I think I'm getting into that. Always better together. I believe that too. The community is the best as well as the lessons. Definitely. Let me see. I just missed this. It just went away on me. Oh, well. Yes, I enjoy what others say and that I'm not alone in my struggle. I mean, that's honestly a huge part of it, isn't it? Shared learning experience is very supportive. So many things that we all had in common. Very helpful, especially when others encourage after posting. Oh man, you guys are hitting. This is so good. This is always fun to see everyone's interpretation of the subject. This is like what I think is so great about learning together is that you didn't just learn from me in this. Even though I was the one painting that you could see I was talking, you learned from everybody else in here as well. And it's just so good to know that you're not alone. Always great to participate in a group. Yeah, I like the share on the Facebook group. Yeah, I think so good. Okay, and here's my next question for you. We did that creative dreamer exercise. I want to ask you guys this for real. Will you continue to make space for your creative dreamer? That younger you that is full of imagination, full of potential, full of creativity, will you continue to set aside that space and guard it so that your creative dreamer can do what they are made to do? Dream and create. That's my question. I sure will. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'm still jazzed to learn and create. Experiencing this challenge with people around the world was the best. Yes, and I will protect that space. My creative space is so important. Always will set the space aside. Absolutely, she is now making me laugh throughout my day. Who knew? That's so cool. I will have my younger me right by my side while I paint. I will try with all my heart to make space for my creative dreamer. Sharing is caring, and this community is great sharers and carers. I know these are the best. Of course, it may be At times it may be hard, but I need to. Creative space, absolutely. It keeps me sane. Yes, I'm so excited to make space for my creative dreamer. I am there. So that's wonderful, you guys. I really am happy to see those, to see your answers and really know that matters to you, and you're committed to do this. This one gets me. This is great. Yes, my brain is empty so the creative dreamer can move in. I love that, Brian. Okay, so you guys, we built Acrylic University to be your place to dream and have fun and explore art. I mean, honestly, when it was a few years ago, I was thinking about what is Acrylic University, and it's do you learn stuff? Is it a school? Like, is it a university? I mean, no, we're not accredited. No, it's not an official, kind of school like that. But yeah, there's so much learning. We've had so many people come through and say, I learned so much more from you guys than I did in art school. Like, I didn't even learn this in art school. I can't believe, like I'm sure that there's somebody who went to art school and probably got something out of this beginner's course that they didn't get out of art school. Like, I don't know if that's a statement on the art school or if that's a statement on us or both, but we have built so much into it. But when I think about it, my imagination goes to what I want it to be, and what we've created it to be is really a home. Your creative dreamer, that little young you, what if they could live in a home that you could paint on the walls and it didn't matter? What if you could run around and explore and, go, what I want to do today? And you have this big roll of paper on the wall and you just pull it out and it just goes over the whole floor, and you can just lay down on the floor and you can just draw. And that's what Acrylic University is in my mind. It's a home for the creative dreamer in you. And we have opened enrollment for this, just special for you guys who are here for 3 days. Because we want to give the creative dreamer in you a place to be. Now, so the last question I have for you is related to this belief I have that motivation is good, but motivation fails. But our environment matters more than motivation. Motivation, you might be, yay, I love it today. And then, next week you'll be like, oh, life happened, and oh, shoot, this and that and the other thing. And, if I saw you in 6 months, I'd be super sad if I said, hey, are you still making space for your creative dreamer? And you go, oh man, yeah, I was going to, wasn't I? And oh, but this happened, and then I forgot, and then this happened, and the reason that can happen to you is because while you might be motivated today, your environment didn't make a difference for you. And so why we're inviting you in is because what if your environment, what if your community was one that actually helped your creative dreamer live and flourish and be who they're supposed to be? So this is my last question. Whether it's with us, whether it's with somebody else, whether it's with trying to create your own environment, I don't know what it looks like for you, but will you intentionally put yourself in an environment of creative joy? Will you see that that's something that is important for you to flourish as a person, to let your creative dreamer flourish? Because You are loved and believed in. You are loved and believed in. So I see a lot of yeses here. Me first for joy. I love it. Yes, I will. Yes, yes. Well, I want to just invite you to go to acrylicuniversity.com/membership. The invitation is open. That's my point. The invitation is open. If you don't have a place that you can go to, we are that home for you. Like, that's how we've designed everything. We designed it for your growth. We've purposely put together a curriculum that walks you from beginner through very advanced techniques. Like, you can learn everything that you need to know about painting inside of Acrylic University. You listen to Diana explain things. She's one of the best instructors that I've ever heard. And you can ask any Acrylic University member that's been in her workshops, that they'll say, like, this is incredible. We have critiques with Brian Buckrow every month. And if he doesn't do it, we have another artist do it. But he's also an incredible artist who's going to help you understand what makes a painting better. And I do a Discover Your Voice every month where you get to paint and try to figure out, who am I as an artist, and explore. You don't want to just paint like me or like Diana or like anybody else. You really want to discover who you are. How can you express yourself? We have courses and courses and courses that are just pre-recorded that you can access anytime. We've got so much in there for you that we're just saying, hey, come in. If you don't have a place to belong, we want that creative dreamer inside of you to be able to flourish. And we would love to have you be part of our community and our home. So if you haven't chatted up till now, this is your chance, because the next thing we're going to do is the giveaway. So make sure, if you haven't chatted in the last little bit, that you're saying right now, I want to win. If you've chatted anything in the last 10 minutes, you're fine, because you're already going to be entered. So glad I'm at home in AU. Wonderful decision. Yeah, this is so true. Carolyn says, this prevents me from going to the doctor. Painting is my prescription. I love it. I love it. Okay. I see everybody saying, I really want to win. Okay, so we're going to do this. I'm going to look over here, and we're going to, I see the entries going up a little bit here. Just a little bit. So I'm going to wait 10 more seconds, and then we're going to choose a winner. Okay. Here we go. I have winner number 1. And you know what? I'm just going to do them both at the same time, and I'm going to announce them both at the same time. Okay, here we go. That way. That way. Okay. Congratulations to Carol Pinard and Joan Butters. Carol Pinard and Joan Butters. Congratulations. Congratulations. If you won, email us at support@acrylicuniversity.com, and you are going to get a $50 gift card right like this. Again, congratulations, Carol Pinard and Joan Butters. Email us, and we will make sure that you get a gift card sent your direction. Guys, you did it. You did all 3 days. Supplies and the creative mindset. We did painting number 1 and painting number 2. We talked about values. We looked at color mixing. If you have any questions or need anything, make sure you go back to acrylicuniversity.com/begin. Will you guys do me a favor? And if you are not currently a member, will you go to acrylicuniversity.com/membership and will you check it out? Will you give it a solid thought? Because if you have an alternative, if you have a good place, a good community, a good support structure for you in your art, then just go check it out and give us some feedback. If you don't have that, consider joining, because we want you to thrive creatively. We really do. Now it is time for Q&A. It's time for Q&A, you guys. So I'm going to switch this back and add Diana to
I'm still here.
Hello, Diana.
Hi.
And yeah, so make sure you guys ask your questions. I'm going to be scrolling through here, looking. I need motivation. Winning is my motivation. I love it. Thank you for the classes. I always learn something from you. Thank you for a fun 3 days. So glad I did this. Canada loves painting. Want to buy more painting supplies. Hey, I like this one. Kelly says, I already won with this lesson. That's super cool. Okay. Trying to get down to see if there's any questions. They must be down at the very bottom. Okay, let's see. You're very welcome, you guys. We love doing these. I notice, let's see, this looks like a question. I notice you don't use a lot of water to spread the paint. Any suggestions on how to allow the paint to flow? What would you say, Diana?
This is my broken record. Just use more paint. Put more paint on your brush. If you want to do a thin, watery thing like Jed do, just follow his instructions. But for the most part, I just load up my brush with more paint because that makes it creamy and smooth instead of scratchy and gritty. And the paintbrush doesn't run out of paint after one little mark.
Yeah. How much do you think, like what percentage of people would you say could use more paint from people that you've instructed, like in a workshop where you can see exactly what they're doing?
Probably 92% need more paint on their brush, just because it's expensive, and people put out the tiniest little drop of paint and try to push it as far as it'll go. But imagine you were painting a wall in your house with a roller with one drop of paint on it. It's not going to go very far. You know, you kind of have to put some paint out, and it's part of the cost of learning, is to experiment with how much you need to make a lovely, luscious brushstroke that can keep going.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing. And I just see this text here, Peter. It says, I tried to get into the membership, but it says it is closed. I use your link. Could you just double check and make sure that the page has the waiting list link removed? I apologize for that, Christy. If that is the case, we will take care of that. Okay, I see a couple questions here. Pat says, do you ever mix on the canvas? Not really. Maybe a little bit if I'm doing a gradation between colors on a large area, you know, like I might do a little bit of blending on there, but I wouldn't consider so much mixing as blending.
Mm-hmm.
Same with you, Diana.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I undermix my paints on my palette. So there's little slight variations in my brush stroke when I put it down. And I like that, rather than having it mixed just to a bland, just all the same color thing. But, I have a lot of variation in each little brush stroke then.
Yeah. Which makes me think about this question right here. It says, Jed, I'd like to know, how do you know which color to mix? I notice you use more than one to make a color. And Leona, that's a very good question. As you begin learning how those colors work, you'll realize that there's a lot of nuances. If you just took blue and yellow, you can make all these variations of green and, like blue green and yellow green. But if you just stayed only between those two colors, that's all that you can do. Like, you can't really vary off of that at all. But the minute that you start adding a little bit of red in there, right, it's going to pull that color into a different direction, and it's going to mute it a little bit. Somebody asked earlier, how do you make brown? Where does brown fit in? And Diana answered, well, you mix all your primary colors together. So you figure out what amount of these colors you need to create the kind of brown that you need. But anytime you're mixing all your colors together, if you imagine a color wheel, a big circle, like back there, okay, that way. The yellow is on the top, then you have red, and then you have blue. Well, when you mix them together, they go into the middle, and in the middle, it becomes more like a gray color or a brown color. It's more muted. Way on the outside, it's very vibrant and colorful. But on the inside, where they mix together, it becomes more muted. And what that means is that the more that you learn how your colors work together, the more nuanced you can be. And you will find that you don't want to make all the grass green mixed right between blue and yellow. You will realize, like, some of it you want to mix a little white in because you want to make it a little bit lighter. Some of it you want to mix a little bit of red in so that it becomes a little bit more brown or orangish looking. Like, there's all these variations that you can find, but you just need to practice with it. But the joy is that if you're using that limited amount of colors, it's actually kind of doable. You'll learn it quicker than you would if you're using a lot of colors.
Yeah.
So when you're first starting out and looking at the value scale, is it better to vary the differences a lot or little? At what stage in the process do you evaluate the varying differences? What are your thoughts on that, Diana? I'm not totally sure if I 100% understand the question.
Well, when you're blocking in a painting or laying out the big idea, I'd stay with light, medium, and dark. And then when you go to paint into the dark area, you can pick out a variety of dark hues that match that main value, but they might be just a value off, value difference and change. When you've got the sky, like looking at the painting behind me, here, I'll bring it up. Here, it's on a Velcro. There we go. The mountain is all varieties of light. The mountain and sky are all light values, like a 1, 2, 3, maybe a little bit of 4 on the value scale. The ground down here is all dark values. And so when I laid it in, I just laid in light, dark. And then later, I chose little changes in the dark. If I put too much light in here, it would break up this big shadow area. If I put too much dark up here, it would break up this big, mountain in the light. It would be broken and ruined. So at the stage where you're starting details, that's where you need to start making change, but keep the integrity of your dark shape intact. That's what I'm saying.
Awesome. Okay, I saw another question that you could answer. Denise says, do you think learning to draw will be helpful with the painting process?
Yeah. Yes. Do you agree, Jed?
I do agree. I think that drawing is very helpful. Especially, it depends on what you're wanting to paint. But if you're wanting to paint something that's representational, yes. If you can figure out how to actually draw something that looks fairly accurate, it's going to make your painting process more enjoyable, probably, because it will reflect what your goal is and your intention is. So for sure, it is a great thing to learn.
When you draw, you learn proportion, you learn values, you learn how to create 3D shape, all in black and white. Drawing is a black and white art, and you're already halfway there learning values. Can I show this another picture? Here we go.
Yeah, please do.
This for one of the units at Acrylic University. In this top corner, I have a drawing. Here's a full value scale. It's a persimmon in a bowl. This is 3 values. Dark, medium, light. This is 2 values, black and white. I practiced years ago. I practiced like this, doing a drawing, rendering it in black and white paint, 3 values only, 2 values only. Drawing is an integral part of that. And learning values is like one of the most important things you'll do in painting. So that's why drawing is so important.
Wilma says, I am so glad to have Acrylic University to be able to continue my dream for 65 years. That is awesome. And I saw this flutter by. I know I just saw Peter say he did get it fixed. So that is wonderful. I also wanted to say Marietta says, paint like a millionaire. And I love that quote because in terms of using enough paint, paint like a millionaire would paint, like where you're not even worried about it. And sometimes that might mean buying, maybe you're not buying the most expensive paint that you ever could, but you're buying something that you feel good about, that you can just go crazy with and paint like a millionaire with it, because you'll enjoy that quite a bit more than if you're worried about the paint. Okay, Corey says, for one who is still not confident with paint distribution, would you recommend wetting spray or retarder? What do you say, Diana?
You could, when you first lay in the foundation of your painting, use a medium or retarder to push that along. But I would stick with really you're more out of the tube paints for those finishing touches, for the stuff that's going to end up on the surface, because it has the most brilliant color. You're not going to be washing the color away, and it's going to have the beautiful texture. So, and it really depends on what you want for your painting.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I said the other day that sometimes I've put retarder on the painting at the beginning. I don't really mix it in very often with my paint, but I think you just find what works for you. Each one of us is going to be a little bit different. So really getting ideas from other people is great. And then not being bound by those ideas.
Yeah.
Experiment. See, could I add a little bit of retarder to my paint? Would that help me? Should I use a different kind of paint like Golden Open, which comes with slow drying medium mixed in, so you don't even have to think about it. You just use it, squeeze it out. It's going to stay wet for a lot longer. There's a lot of ideas that you could explore. I wanted to show this because Karen says, something Jed said in another challenge sticks with me like an aha moment. The only wasted paint is the paint in the tube. And that's the truth. Don't let the paint waste away inside of the tube, because you have something to say. You have something to explore. Kelly says, do you ever use unbleached titanium? It is kind of a cream color. I'm not sure why, but I have 3 tubes of it. That's hilarious. I do every once in a while. I mean, I have it too. I don't use it that often, but I think there's certain things where, you could use it to lighten a color that you don't want it to be super pure. You might be able to find a place like in a sky or with clouds or something where it would be a really great color. Maybe for something like, I'm just thinking about places where I might use it. You might find a building in the sunlight that unbleached titanium would be a great, color to have in there, or beach, like sand at the beach or something like that, like where it can be a base and then you can add different colors to it. That's the way that I would use it. And it is funny though. Sometimes you end up with colors that you're like, how did I get this? Why do I have 3 tubes of it? Now what am I going to do? Okay, see this. Hi, Diana. In creating depth and values, I've known that you are supposed to use light colors in the background and dark towards the front. How do you make mountains look far away if they look dark?
Oh, well, nature throws us curveballs all the time. In general, things farther back are lighter and things closer back have a larger range of shadow available. But that's not always the case. So you have to look. But there's other things. And, in Acrylic U, I have this whole course on perspective, and it gives you 11 other tools besides dark and light to use to create distance. And I can't go into all 11 of those other tools, but there's 12 tools that give you the ability to create distance in any kind of a varying situation. That light to dark thing is only in general circumstances out there in nature. But nature's always changing and catching us up.
Yes. I just realized something. Somebody just asked a question and they said, is there a scholarship for membership? And I just realized that I never put this up there and I didn't even talk about it for some reason. I forgot. But if money is something that is hindrance for you, you can go to this acrylicuniversity.com/scholarship and fill out that form and we will get back to you. We would love to take that barrier away for if you want to be part of Acrylic University, then please go there and fill out the form, because it's definitely something that we value, is giving people the opportunity when you want to learn and grow and be part of our community. We don't want the money to be the big thing that's going to hinder you from that. So thank you for asking that. Okay. I'm looking. I think that we basically got everything. I did see a couple questions about are there drawing courses? I can't see them right now, but are there drawing courses inside of Acrylic University? And Diana, you have some stuff on drawing in some of what you've done, I believe.
Yes, I've included drawing in my perspective course and in my still life course, because it's really important to have those tools when we're experimenting with values or proportions and things. It's really important to have that drawing skill in hand. So yeah, I do that.
Yeah, and we have a couple other things that are in there too, but it is one thing that I've had on my radar for a little while. I actually have a friend who is, I don't know, I mean, really, 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 really good at instructing specifically drawing. And I'm not sure if we will have that, like a really detailed, thorough course that's specifically just about that. Like when we could have that, but it is something on my radar, and it is something that I would like to add, because we continue to make Acrylic University better, and we continue to try to find, is there a gap somewhere? Is there something that we need to do? And this course that you participated in the last 3 days is one of those answers to that question. We kind of looked a couple years ago and we thought, you know what? If you don't know anything about painting, it's a little bit of a jump to get to this first course that we have. What if we could make something that you could come to without any knowledge, any background, any experience, and you could feel like you could ask questions, you could be comfortable, you could find the solutions that you're looking for. So that's not a direct answer, except that we do have some on drawing already in there, like Diana alluded to. I would like to fill that out over time, because we're always trying to make Acrylic University the best that it can be.
Yep.
Okay. I saw this question come in here. Cassie asks, I know you've answered this before, but what is the best quality paint or brand for the money? Best bang for the buck? And I'm just thinking, do you have an answer?
Well, this is a tricky one because it's all expensive. Good paint is expensive. Yeah. And Jed has suggested buy a high quality white and a high quality yellow and get student grades in the reds and blues. And that seems to work. The other thing to remember is that when you buy high quality paint, it has double the tinting strength. You're going to get double the bang out of a high quality paint and less frustration. It's the difference between, remember Peanuts, the little piano player had that little toy piano. It's a difference between a Schroeder's little piano and a real piano to learn on. It's when you're learning, you want really good materials to work with, so you have less frustration. And I know that doesn't answer the dollar question, but I'd say the money spent on good paints is probably worth the money invested in good paints. I won't say spent, I'll say invested, because
yeah,
it is, they are expensive. Yeah.
I see somebody right now saying that Utrecht paints are on sale at Blick right now. Mm-hmm. And if I would, these were one of my first paints that I used inside of Acrylic University. The very first one that I used was Liquitex, and then I discovered Utrecht and I used them for quite a while. Then I found Winsor & Newton. I really like those, and I've been using those for a while. I just got more Utrecht when I was down teaching a workshop, and I do love these. One of the reasons I love them is because now Blick bought them, so this is the tricky part. Like, you can't find them everywhere. They're not as widely dispersed as Golden, as Liquitex. But I read, the reason I even tried them at all in the beginning was because I read an article. I was looking online and I was trying to find, like, hey, what are the best acrylic paints out there? And there was some survey that was put out for painters, and they had given them a variety of paints to use, and they said, which is your favorite? And what was interesting was Utrecht won. They won that survey. They won that little test from a bunch of artists, because they liked how they were thick and buttery, and like they really covered well, and they liked the pigments and all that. And so I would say I think go for something that's on sale. Somebody just said these are on sale right now at Blick. So if you have access to Blick and they're on sale, then I'd go check them out, because they are good paints. And like Diana said, you could get Golden, you could get Liquitex, the professional grade, you could get Utrecht. Again, we're all talking about the artist grade paints, but you won't probably be disappointed in any of them. I think it's just like, try to find the one that's on sale and go with that one, and get as much as you can so that it's going to be it's going to last as long as you can. You don't have to worry about it again for a while. By the way, I always buy more titanium white. I always buy double the titanium white or triple the titanium white than I do other colors. I don't use red as much as I use yellow. So there's like things that you should know and get like double. I'd get double yellow and triple white, and my blue and my red. I don't know. I use blue more than red. So there's like certain colors that, depending on what you're painting, I look out, I don't actually see hardly any red outside where I live. Where you live, if you live in Red Rocks, maybe you're going to get like all red and a little bit of blue and stuff. But anyways, okay, guys, we are going to be done here. We've been going for a while and you guys have stuff to do, but thank you for hanging with us. This has been so fun. Make sure you go to acrylicuniversity.com/membership and check out the membership. Or if you want to apply for a scholarship, go to acrylicuniversity.com/scholarship. You guys, you are loved and believed in. Diana, do you have any last words as we're signing off today?
Real quick. Just remember that a lot of idea that people have is that you're born with it as an artist. We're not. Like dance or music or tennis or any other skill, it's a learned skill. And there's lots of failure in between what you want and the skill you have. So be gentle and patient with yourself. You're not born. None of us are born with it. We have to acquire the skill bit by bit, piece by piece. So we're going to be kind to each other and kind to ourselves as we acquire these skills, and just give ourselves some grace and some time to enjoy this skill building process.
Absolutely. You are a creative dreamer. Make sure you make space for your creative dreamer to have fun and play and explore. And we believe in you and we love you. And we'll see you guys next time.